So the big rumor that's going on right now that I've talked about a bit before in the past is that Fire Emblem 4 or Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War will be getting a remake on the Nintendo Switch, and this will be a pretty expansive remake of the game, very similar to Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia or even the past Fire Emblem remakes on the Nintendo DS that really expanded upon the games, did extra things, were really good for Fire Emblem fans out there. So I wanted to talk about why, if this game actually gets made, it is a must play, must buy game, because Fire Emblem Genealogy of Holy War did so many things that helped shape the franchise's future that a lot of you guys might not know about, because Nintendo has never officially localized this game in English. Now, you can play it out there. There are definitely translations and stuff like that, but it's never been done officially from Nintendo. But I do have a feeling that they are working on a big Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War remake. Now, this is the fourth game in the Fire Emblem franchise from Intelligent Systems. It was released all the way back on May 14th, 1996. Now, this game is also legendary to me, at least. It's a little bit more of a personal thing, but I think some of you guys might feel the same way. But this is the last Fire Emblem game that was produced by legendary Nintendo designer Gunpei Yokoi. This guy did so many great things at Nintendo before his unfortunate passing away decades ago, and this is part of his legacy. He was a part of that Fire Emblem beginning, and a lot of people don't really give him that credit, but he was right there in the trenches doing the work for Fire Emblem and making it what Fire Emblem is for today. Because as we'll get into here, without this game, I'm not sure if Awakening does what Awakening does and saves the franchise at the end of the day. Now, remember, this is Lord Sigurd's game. A lot of you guys are probably playing Fire Emblem Engage right now, or have played Fire Emblem Engage, and you've seen Sigurd in the game. Really cool. He's got cavalry, he's got a lance, really strong, can go all over the place. Yeah, Sigurd is awesome, and this is his game. He's the legendary hero and knight. I want to talk about this because I think that Sigurd as a character, it's interesting to see how they've kind of evolved his style over from that really early 90s art and just kind of how crazy it looked to all the way to where we got right now. And it's super cool. So having Sigurd in a remake with his own game and everything, I think that would be really dope for just the advancement of the old school Fire Emblems, and also just getting some of those games and kind of letting people play those, because those are some of the best strategy RPGs out there that are just stuck never to be localized at this point, and Nintendo's very slowly localizing them. Now, another really crazy thing about this game, believe it or not, it has 114 tracks plus. That is a massive soundtrack for the Super Nintendo back in the day. Think about that. There are games today with all the different size and everything that we have. There are certain games, heck, even games that win soundtrack of the year that don't even have more than 30 to 40 tracks. This was a Super Nintendo game that had over 114 musical tracks. So Fire Emblem's always been known for its phenomenal music, and Genealogy of the Holy War is no exception to that. It's just crazy that they're able to get all of that music into a Super Nintendo game, which I'm pretty sure there's some other games, but for how good the score is, I think that it's really impressive. Now, the thing about this game, which I think could be the one issue, is that this game has some very dark themes and some taboo stuff as well. So would Nintendo change those things around? Would Nintendo decide to say, not sure if we want to go into that? Or will they say, you know what? We want to have an authentic experience. We want to make sure that we carry over the vision of all the people who worked on the game back then and make sure that it's the most authentic experience brought to a new life. And we're not going to change any of that. Now, I'm not going to say exactly what those are for the fear of potential spoilers or even having this video get demonetized somehow. But I do want to say that it is very, very taboo topics and very dark and interesting. Some of the most shocking scenes ever in a Fire Emblem game probably starts with Genealogy of the Holy War. Now, there are other shocking scenes. Obviously, the character dies and stuff like that. The game Fire Emblem, the franchise, has had shocking and really sad moments throughout its whole history, especially if you delve into the lore and some of the other stuff between the characters and how they were raised. but I'm telling you, Genealogy of the Holy War kind of takes it to a whole new level when it comes to the characters and what happens and some of the stuff. So I think bringing that story and what they do in that game and bringing it to a brand new audience in today's day with today's modern graphics and stuff, I mean, this could be incredible, or it can be very disturbing for some people based on what they decide to do. Now, Genealogy of the Holy War is the first game in the franchise, believe it or not, to use the weapon triangle. I mean, the classic weapon triangle: swords beat axes, axes beat lances, lances beat swords. Yeah, the weapon triangle that we all know and love, that's currently rocking it in Fire Emblem Engage. This was the game that started that, and it's the basis for many games afterwards. Now, there's been some games that don't use it, but for the most part, everyone loves when they have that classic weapon triangle. It's not 100% needed. Like Three Houses, that game was great without it, but when you have it, it just adds that new extra layer of, I would say, strategy to the game. And they've even reiterated on that with Fire Emblem Engage, with having a weapon break the person's stance and they drop it, so no counter attack or anything. So that's super cool. This is the game that really started it. So I think that that's why this is a must-play game. Like, if you're gonna see where one of the series staples started from, you might as well start at the source here with Genealogy of the Holy War. So another thing that was really cool about this game, and one of the first things in the Fire Emblem franchise, was special skills for individual characters. These are pretty much staples at this point with many of the newer games and even games right after that. And this game is really what started it, which was really dope. Certain classes, you can be leveling up, have certain skills in those classes. It was really good. Back when I played the game, I had no idea really what I was doing because I wasn't so sure about what everything was in this game, but it was still super cool to be able to have that and go through and say, oh wow, this skill is with this character and this person can do this. It really kind of added a whole new layer to Fire Emblem that's never been there before in the series, and why many still feel to this day that Genealogy of the Holy War might be the best Fire Emblem game. Now, another super cool thing about Genealogy of the Holy War is that it's the first game of the franchise to have the relationships that can produce children, and then those children can inherit skills from the parents. I mean, this was a major, super cool thing in Fire Emblem Awakening. It tied right into the story. It was something that you wanted to do, have those relationships, have those pairings, and then see how the children would turn out, and then they would also get certain skills there. There's a whole meta game surrounded upon what pairings you have, what children you can produce, what skills they can have, how busted you can make it, especially if you're playing it on the maddening difficulty. You're gonna need some of those children out there. So I think that going back and seeing the game that really first started, there was relationship stuff, but have it to where it was that important, tying into the story like Awakening does, but before Awakening, you know, decades before Awakening, and you can do it in this game, and how shocking it is when it comes to how it was actually done and implemented, especially for the people who played it back then and had no idea. If you're like in Japan and you were playing it and then all the stuff happened and then you could have this, I think that it would have just been one of the coolest moments before the internet and before everything that kind of came out and would tell you this type of stuff. It was just a super big surprise. So having that type of system and really where it came from, I think that's why it deserves everyone to check it out, especially if you've played Fire Emblem Awakening. This is a game that, man, you're going to want to check out. So I feel that it's very important for that. Now, I do think that obviously we all see Awakening, most of us at least, as the game that saved the Fire Emblem franchise. Remember, if they didn't sell 250,000 copies at least of Fire Emblem on the Nintendo 3DS, this is Fire Emblem Awakening, the series might have been done for forever. Now, immediately, that is a lower bar, right? Like, the game had definitely sold more than 250,000 copies with various different entries, some of them even reaching up to almost 1 million copies in Japan alone, or over 500,000 copies or 700,000 copies. But the series was always so up and down in Japan. Sometimes they would sell this much, then it was a lot worse, then it was a lot more. I mean, it just depends on what was going on, what systems were out, what fans were doing. It always seemed like Fire Emblem fans were not consistent in Japan when it comes down to it, which is what led to them saying, hey, we need to see this amount because we're putting in this amount of money. We've been doing this game for decades and it's been just going too up and down. We need to see that progress. So I do feel that Genealogy of the Holy War, when they were looking at developing, like, hey, we're going to make the ultimate Fire Emblem game, we're going to put in all sorts of stuff, this was one of the games. This was one of the nucleus and the basis for them creating the ultimate Fire Emblem game. A lot of these cool things with the children and how good the relationships were and the pairing up system and the support systems, so many of these different things were founded upon the basis of Genealogy of the Holy War, which built upon the already great gameplay from the first few games. So I feel that out of all the Fire Emblem games, if I had to pick one that I would say is one of the most important outside if we're going to put Awakening and how that saved the franchise, this is definitely it. Genealogy of the Holy War did so many incredible things that still seen to this day in the franchise, and I feel that without this game, I'm not sure exactly where we would be and what ideas they would have drawn upon to make Fire Emblem Awakening the hit that it was. Now, and I do feel that Fire Emblem was perfect for the Nintendo 3DS system, and there was other factors as well. There's always other factors that play a part into a game doing well, whether it's the right system, the right combination of marketing, the right graphics, gameplay, music, whatever the case is. But I feel that the perfect storm, the developers, of course, just being incredible at their job and them really trying hard and looking at the source material to see what they can do. You combine all of that, it created the perfect fusion, and Genealogy of the Holy War was a very big part of that. And obviously they drew upon their past as well with the legendary hero King Marth, and of course having the ties back to that was great with Lucina and Chrom and everything. So that was all cool, and I think that also helped as well, as it gave it a sense of history and prestige for those that have been around and have known Fire Emblem, and of course Marth, Super Smash Brothers and everything. So I think that it was just a perfect storm of everything. But I feel that Genealogy of the Holy War is one of those games that really needs to be respected, and it needs to be brought back for a modern audience for the first time ever. It's been way too long. We're going on almost 30 years now for the original release in Japan. So I think it's time, Nintendo, and I think that they are working on it. It's just a matter of exactly when it's coming. We just got engaged in January here, so is there going to be another one later in the year? Not so sure about that. Will it be revealed even this year? Who knows? But it does seem, based off of all the information that is out there, that it is coming. But we'll see how it all works out. But if you want to check out more information and more content that I do have on Fire Emblem, all things Fire Emblem, I'll have links for you guys in the description where I talk about Fire Emblem Engage and more review scores, all sorts of stuff. So if you want more Fire Emblem content, check out the link in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll see you guys for the next one. Peace.